I was going to walk around. But...
Well, I'll hold it here, that's fine.
Okay.
Cameraman. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Today I had, and actually Monday and Tuesday, I had the honor to attend a workshop on inclusive leadership and nonviolent communication. And I was just blown away being in this community of peacemakers. What I would like to do is share with you a little bit about some of the things that I learned as part of this workshop. Some of the tools that are used in nonviolent communication, and then to give you an example of what that would look like, or how that would play out in a real world situation. So, this information is actually from a book called Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall Rosenberg. So where the source of where this comes from. There's actually 4 different parts of this particular tool that we use in nonviolent communication. They are, the first is to make a distinction between what just happened and our judgment about what happened. Because a lot of times we have a tendency to collapse them and make them one, and they're actually 2 separate things. So I want to share a little bit about how that works. Next is to identify how did that make you feel, and then be able to communicate that. And then the third is to take your thoughts that you're thinking about and then translate that into a language of needs. So what is it that I need? What does the other person need? Because each of us has universal human needs, and we want to have our language speak to that. And then lastly, it is, what is the request that I'm making? What is it that I would like to achieve, or what am I requesting of you? And what is my intention? So now, after having used these, or gone over these 4 tools, I'd like to give you a real world scenario, maybe even 2, depending upon time, of what that would look like when you play it out. So a couple of days ago, I was talking with my dad on the phone. He lives over in California. We don't talk very often. There's a little bit of a reason for that. Our relationship can be a little bit awkward and estranged. And so I was like, you know what? I would like to go ahead and call him up because I haven't called him in a while. And while we were talking, he made this comment. He says, DeSorrow, all this education, these classes that you're taking, I'm working on a master's right now, and it doesn't really seem like you have expanded much or changed much. There's not much of a difference that it's making with you. Okay? Now, my temptation was to come back in a more violent way, or rather than a non-violent communication. But I want to share with you how we would use these tools to come back in a way that would be more effective. The first is to listen to what he said and restate it as an observation rather than to make a judgment on it. So instead of saying, you don't even know me, why are you going to tell me that? No, instead of being judgmental about it, be like, okay, so Dad, I heard you say that the education, even though I'm taking the education in classes, that they're not really making a difference and they're not expanding me. Okay? So I restate that. Then next is I would share, how did that make me feel? Well, Dad, that actually made me feel frustrated, a little upset and agitated. And then share with him, what is it that I need? Well, Dad, it's important for me, I really need to have a voice that feels like that it matters, that I'm making a contribution, that what I say means something, that I need to not be belittled, or I need to come away from this conversation empowered. I need to come away from my conversation with you knowing that I'm validated and that I'm a person who is just as worthy as you as a human being. That's what I need from our conversation. And then last, I'll be able to share what is my request. Well, Dad, the next time that you were giving me advice, my request is that you would be a little bit more mindful and think a little bit about how it lands over here with me and the impact that that's having. So that's an example of using those tools in that scenario. I'd like to give one more. I might go over time, but I'll give one more. So, for Labor Day weekend, I went and visited some college buddies in Austin, Texas. And we got into this conversation. And one of the topics had to do with executive compensation. Okay. Actually, it was a lot of different political topics, but I'm going to point out this one. And I was telling my friend Billy that I feel like oftentimes executives tend to exploit their workers by having outrageous compensation, and and the employees are working at minimum wage and don't have health benefits, and that is an injustice. And he comes back and he's like, DeSorrow, you don't even know what you're talking about, and it's not even worth responding to you because you're not informed on this matter. Okay. So I'm like, how might we use the tools of nonviolent communication to respond to this? So I'm like, well, let me go ahead and restate what you said. So Billy, what I heard you say is that I'm not informed on this matter, and that it's not even worth replying to my response. That's what I heard you say. That made me feel a little bit small, agitated, and frustrated. And what I need is I need to be respected, and I need to be understood. And so my request is that next time we are having a discussion, that you would give the space for me to be able to share my view and where I'm coming from. So those are two examples of how to use the tools of nonviolent communication. And they are to, number one, to make a distinction between what is actually happening, or the observation, versus the judgment that you're making, or your story about what happened. Those are two things. Try not to collapse them. And secondly, to identify how did that make you feel, and be able to share that without judgment. And then third, take your thoughts that are going on and translate that into a language of need. What is it that you need? Because we all have basic human needs. And then finally, what is the request that you would ask of that person? So next time, I hope that you would find these tools helpful, beneficial in your communication in areas of conflict. Mr. Toastmaster. Oh, Mr. Toastmaster.